Welcome to the Explainer. Have you ever stood in a grocery store staring at the price tag on some brand new snack and just wondered, how on earth did they come up with that exact number? It's really easy to think companies just pull prices out of thin air or, I don't know, maybe just peek at what the competition is doing and copy them. But for a business to actually survive in the real world, that price tag has to be rooted in cold, hard math. So today, we're on a mission. We are going to uncover the absolute minimum selling price of a product using real-world data. We're going to build a price tag completely from scratch, penny by penny, to see exactly what goes into bringing a physical product to life. Okay, let's dive into this. To find that absolute minimum price, we use something called the bottom-up pricing model. And it's exactly what it sounds like. We start at the very bottom, the bare foundational costs, and we build our way up. Our core objective here is simple but absolutely critical. We want to calculate a product's minimum selling price by adding up all the foundational, setup, fixed, and variable costs. By the end of this, we aren't going to have a guess. We will have the exact mathematical floor of what a product must sell for, literally just to keep the lights on. So here's our roadmap. First, the 3 pillars of cost. Second, our protein pudding example. Third, calculating capital expenditures. Fourth, crunching the fixed costs. Fifth, unpacking the variable costs. And finally, number 6, the final bottom-up price. All right, section 1, the 3 pillars of cost, the theory behind the price. Every physical product's price tag is built on 3 core pillars. Pillar number 1, setup costs, which are also known as CapEx, or capital expenditures. These are your massive one-time investments. Think of the giant machines, the initial research, the huge hurdles you have to clear before day 1 even starts. Pillar number 2, fixed costs. This is your yearly overhead. These are the bills that honestly do not care how much product you actually sell. Whether you sell 1 single unit or 1 million units, your rent and your admin salaries, they still have to be paid. And then there's pillar number 3, variable costs. These are the per unit expenses. Every single time you physically manufacture and ship one more item, you incur these costs: the raw materials, the specific packaging, the delivery truck. Moving right along to section 2, our protein pudding example, from macro to micro. We know the 3 pillars now, but how does this actually work in practice? How do millions in startup costs get magically shrunk down to fit inside the tiny barcode of a single grocery store item? Let's take a look at a specific case study. Meet our example, a brand new startup based in China, and they're launching a protein pudding. It's trendy, it's healthy, you get the idea. Now, their production target for the year is 300,000 units. Just to put that into perspective for a second, if you decided to eat one of these protein puddings for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day, it would take you roughly 274 years to get through their annual inventory. That is a literal mountain of pudding. And as we're about to see, moving a mountain of pudding requires a pretty massive mountain of cash. Section 3, calculating capital expenditures, or CapEx, the big initial spend. Just look at these initial setup costs in Chinese renminbi, or RMB. Before they can even flip the open sign, they have to spend 400,000 on recipe development and R&D. They need 240,000 for branding and packaging design, and 160,000 to navigate strict food compliance certifications. But wow, look at that second line. The machinery, the massive automated filling systems, takes up the absolute lion's share at 1.6 million RMB. Add it all together, and our startup is in the hole for 2.4 million RMB before day 1. It's a huge, intimidating number. So how on earth do we apply this to the price of a single little cup of pudding? Well, we use a vital piece of math logic called depreciation. We definitely do not apply that entire 2.4 million to year 1. Those machines are built to last. Our standard assumption here is that we spread this cost out over 3 years. And remember our target, 300,000 units a year? So we are spreading that 2.4 million over a grand total of 900,000 puddings over a 3-year span. Meaning, when you do that math, you get 2.67 RMB. This is crucial. Every single cup of pudding sitting on the grocery shelf carries a tiny, invisible 2.67 RMB burden just to pay off the initial factory setup. It's a micro fraction of that massive 2.4 million spend. All right, section 4, crunching the fixed costs, the yearly overhead. What's really fascinating here is how heavily the human element weighs on a business. The total fixed costs are 3.7 million RMB a year. You've got $500,000 for rent in the warehouse, a cool $1 million for fixed marketing to get the brand out there, and $200,000 for IT and software. But the heaviest ongoing burden by far, personnel. The administrative and sales teams cost 2 million RMB a year. Because, let's face it, the pudding doesn't sell itself. You need professionals, and those salaries are a massive fixed cost that the pudding has to pay for year in and year out. So, we take that 3.7 million RMB in yearly fixed overhead, and we divide it by our 300,000 units for the year. That gives us 12.33 RMB. Think about that for a second. Before a single drop of milk is even poured into a cup, there is a 12.33 RMB invisible cost baked right into every single unit, just to pay the salaries, keep the lights on, and pay for the software subscriptions. Section 5. Unpacking the variable costs. Building the pudding. Now for the actual physical product. Here is the exact breakdown of what it takes to physically create and ship one unit. The milk, the protein, the ingredients, that costs 6.50 RMB. The physical packaging, the plastic cup, the little foil lid, that's 3.00 RMB. The actual runtime production cost with their co-manufacturer is 5.50 RMB. And finally, the logistics to actually deliver that pudding across China costs 2.50 RMB. Add all those up, and the total variable cost is 17.50 RMB. Every single time another unit rolls off the line, the company spends exactly this amount. That 1750 RMB represents the physical creation and movement of the product. And, as you might expect for a physical food brand, it is for sure the largest single contributor to the per unit cost. But as we've seen, it is only one piece of the puzzle. And finally, Section 6. The final bottom-up price. Putting it all together. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how a price tag is born. Your variable costs, the actual physical milk, plastic, and shipping, are the largest slice at 1750. But right next to it, taking up a massive chunk, is 1233 for fixed costs, the rent, the salaries, the marketing. And finally, that 2.67 sliver paying off the initial factory and R&D. They perfectly stack together to form the product's fundamental base profile. When you add those three slices together, you get 32.50 RMB per unit. Now, this number is incredibly important. This is not the retail price. This is the absolute financial floor. 32.50 RMB is the break-even point. If this startup sells their pudding for 32.49 RMB to a distributor, they will eventually go bankrupt. They must clear 32.50 literally just to exist, and only after they add a margin on top of this number will they ever see a single penny of actual profit. It really changes how you look at the store shelves, doesn't it? The next time you grab a coffee, a new gadget, or just a quick snack, I want you to ask yourself, what invisible factory setups, software subscriptions, and marketing budgets are hiding right there in the price tag? Because as we've learned today with our protein pudding, the cost of the actual physical ingredients is only ever half the story. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking questions, and I'll catch you next time.